one of the things that I did it yesterday because it was a really emotional day for me yesterday. I did talk to you for a little bit, but I knew it was one of those days where I needed to be alone. I needed to be in my own feelings, and I needed to be quiet. It just so happened that Facebook and Instagram was down anyway. I didn't know because I wasn't there. But you will understand because you know my pattern, that when I get like that, I'm super emotional. I immediately set a boundary for everybody. And that boundary is, I have to be alone to process this, or people are going to cross that boundary because I let them. People are going to cross over, and I'm going to explode, and I'm going to be angry, and I'm going to hurt those relationships by exploding because I didn't explicitly say, I need some time.
Although I knew you needed the time, when you dropped a fog machine on your ankle, blew up like a balloon, and you sent me the picture, I had to call to make sure you were okay. And she's got it's better today, but you're in a lot of pain right now, I know.
Yeah, you can probably tell it in my voice and in my face. I'm still in some pain, but oh my goodness. Stuff like this, I swear, I know this is just my brain, but sometimes I swear this stuff only happens to me.
Well, as I said yesterday, it's building resilience, good resilience. And your boundary should be, don't lift a box without putting your hand underneath it. I had to teach her that yesterday. She's like, I know, Jimmy, I know.
I learned the hard way. Yes.
You learned the hard way because you had your phone and 3 bags in one hand. You were trying to lift a box with the other hand. And then lo and behold, that heavy thing in that box just fell out and hit your ankle. Who knew?
Lesson learned. It's okay.
Lesson learned. Lots of boundaries. So let's walk through this for people, because they have people in their life that take advantage of them. And guys, you know those people. When we started talking about this, boom, 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 all these people came to your mind. And it might be everybody in your sphere of influence. If you've kind of, excuse the expression, you kind of hoard yourself out that way where you're available to everybody, then you're going to be susceptible to getting hurt by all the everybody, including the actions that you take on yourself. And so help people learn how to set those boundaries, because I think the fear is they don't want to hurt people's feelings, because if things have been a certain way and it's been no holds barred, everybody has access, and then suddenly you're like, yeah, but Sundays, leave me alone. I need that time. That's a boundary that you set up. How do they do that without having those feelings of I'm hurting someone else?
Those feelings aren't going to go away because it's brand new. Well, they'll go away, but in the beginning, when you set it's so hard, the very beginning, because you don't know how they're going to react, but you have to be so self-respectful of yourself and caring of yourself that no matter what they say, your stance doesn't change. And this is where self-respect has to come into play with boundaries. People who don't have self-respect have zero boundaries. And I've seen it time and time and time again. I think about, last year being an election year, and I won't get into anything political, but it's a really great topic for people who struggle with boundaries. I had to set extremely hard boundaries with family members because I have very different views than they do. And they can't respect my views and have a civil conversation about opposing ideas. Therefore, I have to say, and in quotes, I would like to end this conversation about XYZ.
Yes.
And that's my boundary. If they continue, then I come back and say, I would like to end this conversation. And if you continue, I'm going to have to hang up.
Yeah.
And if they continue, then you have to stick with your word.
Yes.
And hang up the phone. You have to stick to what you say. It doesn't have to be mean. It doesn't have to be malicious. There doesn't have to be yelling. I'm trying to avoid the yelling. I am trying to avoid the pain and the hurt and the things that come along when all of us get heightened with emotions. That's what I'm trying to avoid with boundaries.
Well, and the boundaries isn't about getting your way. That's something that I know you kind of had thrown at you by these people that you're talking about with the political views. And well, you just getting your way. You just think you know it all. No, it's not about that at all. It's if anything, it's you do know what's about to happen, and you're trying to preserve relationships. When Brittany goes quiet on Jimmy, Jimmy knows it's not because she's mad at him. Although early on, what did Jimmy think?
Yeah.
Brittany's mad at me. Like that was kind of the thing. When people go quiet on me, I don't handle that boundary of needing silence well. I'm better at it now. Thank you for
Because of your past. That's
yeah.
because of your past and things that you've experienced in your past. But you and I've had that exact conversation of you said, when you do that, it makes me feel. And I said, okay, I see that. I'm so sorry that that's how you feel. When I do this, this is what it is, and we've had to communicate and go back. Boundaries and communication just go together. They just do.
Hand in hand. Don't set a boundary without communicating, and then don't communicate, but then not set boundaries. Like you have to communicate, but then you have to follow through with the appropriate boundaries. Like I think about some of the relationships in your life that you've had struggles with, like your dad, and like look at what the miracle of what the boundary has produced. And like I hope for both of y'all's sake that you keep that going, and I think you will. Like I'm seeing a different tone that you use when you talk about your dad with me now that I've never heard in the 2.5 years we've been friends. I've never heard you talk about him in that way. So for your sake, I see the changes. I see the benefits you're getting from that boundary. And then he had his boundary and you're respecting each other's boundaries. If you love someone, a boundary is the best thing you can give them.
Absolutely. Think about Wild Man and our relationship. There's been many times, I've gone through sexual trauma. And so there's been times when he'll just touch my arm and I have to say, you can't touch me right now. I can't accept your touch. And on some level, at first that was very offensive to him, but we had very tough conversations about, listen, I have been touched in ways that I didn't request.
Yeah.
Because of that, there are times that my body is just hypersensitive. And
Yeah.
if I get touched, it's physically painful for me because it brings back those memories and it causes a physical sensation. It's odd, it's weird, but it's something that I go through as a trauma survivor. But I've communicated to that, and it's not always that way. And so unfortunately, this is like a moving boundary when it comes to like the touch thing. And you know this because I don't like hugs. It plays into that. That's why I don't like hugs. But sometimes I can tolerate it, and I have to keep that moving boundary of letting people know hugs are difficult for me. So ask before you just go in. And Wild Man knows this because this is a moving boundary that I have of, I love holding his hand. I love hugs and touches from him, but he knows I'm not always willing to accept that. And so if he does touch me and I haven't communicated to him, it's one of those days, I can't get angry. I just have to say, it's not today. I can't do that. I can't touch today. And so and that's another thing, a moving boundary. I don't know if that's the correct terminology, but
That would be hard for me with a moving boundary because I'm kind of a rules person. It's like you tell me you have a boundary, the boundary
yeah,
until you say the boundary no longer exists. And so if you say, well, it's okay today, but tomorrow it may not be, like, I'm glad the few times that we have seen each other in person, you didn't
yeah,
have, I can't hug you. That would fuck up my brain really bad. Like, oh, I need a Brittany hug. And you
yeah,
probably do it respecting that I need
right,
that. You would probably do
yeah,
it anyway, not tell
yeah,
me that. I hope you haven't done that.
yeah.
Okay,
No, I
good.
wouldn't. But like when it comes to, I go back to like family. Family's the biggest one that I've had to learn to set strong boundaries with. My family get all the boundaries. And I give them and I set these strong boundaries so that I can continue to have a relationship with them. Like that's people have to understand that if I didn't set boundaries, they would not be in my life. Because there were family members in my past that I wasn't old enough to set boundaries, and they crossed too many lines before I got to that stage. And now we're not communicating. Like we don't communicate at all. I won't talk to them anymore just because they showed their true colors before I was able to set boundaries, and I'm not willing to even try. And that happens. Don't be sad when one of your boundaries results in the end of a relationship. Celebrate that person who would hurt you by crossing your lines is no longer in your life.
Yes. And like, look, sometimes the boundary is completely cutting off. I had to do that with my dad. It's been now 2.5 years since I've last talked to my dad. I was just with my mom yesterday, and I said, yeah, my dad used to send like birthday. He wouldn't send a birthday card. He'd send a little note that says, "Happy birthday card, Jas William." He always called me Jas William for some reason. Okay, James William is my name, James William Moore, but he would call it Jas William. It's like, my name is Jimmy. You could write my name, but it was so impersonal. Anyway, but since our not talking, the boundary that he didn't like that I put up, and he's now being stubborn. I don't know if it's the same as what you and your dad went through. I don't think ours is a very different situation than you and your dad. You two love each other. You two wanted to be in each other's lives. He was pining for you. You were pining for him. And it just took that drunken stupor to kind of get you guys to do it. I'm not drinking with my dad. I promise you, I ain't going to be drinking with my dad because he might hear things he don't want to hear. There's a lot of trauma still there.
My dad's not quite the feel the feels as I am, but I've definitely been wearing off at him. I don't remember where we were, but recently I was at his house or we were out to eat or something, and he was like, yeah, when you have a business and you have friends, like, you just have to set boundaries. And I was like, what did you say? I was so proud. I was just like, can I be proud for a second? I just had to sit back. I'm like, I love that you know that word. He's like, yeah, I learned it from somebody. Like, I wonder who. But talking about family, going back to that, I know you've had a really tough time, but you stood your ground, and that was important, that you set this boundary for yourself, and it wasn't understood, and unfortunately that resulted in the end of a relationship, and that's okay. It sucks. It doesn't make it feel good. I'm not saying boundaries feel good all the time, okay? They suck sometimes.
And when you set up boundaries, there's collateral damage that comes with that. I think I told you yesterday, I have this pull to want to go back to my old hometown because there's other family members that aren't a part of that boundary I set with my dad. They just happen to be related to him. I want to go back because I still want that relationship with cousins and aunts and things like that. Just because my dad has decided to not like the boundary I've set up does not mean all the rest of them need to suffer. And so this is something to think about as well. People say, well, I set a boundary. It's not just with that one person. It's with a whole slew of people. I feel like I'm cut off from the Moors now because I cut off one more.
Yeah. I mean, and unfortunately it happens that way, but that's where we have to start thinking about, what does healthy boundaries look like? And it looks like it's not my job to fix other people, and in your case, it's not your job to mend each and every one of those relationships if by extension they're also not respecting your boundary.
Yeah.
If they see that you set a boundary with this person and they come to you or don't even say anything to you of, well, that's your dad, that's a sign of them crossing your boundary.
Yes.
Well, that's still your XYZ. No. And it's okay to say no. Like, that moves on. Healthy boundaries look like saying no sometimes, and they look like not anticipating the needs of others, and it looks like it's your job to make you happy, not anybody else happy. Like, these are things that boundaries look like. And it's a sad situation when the collateral damage, it feels like collateral damage, but really it's just, hey, I'm sorry that's how you feel, but this is my boundary and I'm sticking to it, and I'm not caving because I know who I am. I have self-respect, and I won't let you treat me that way.
So you guys know I've been doing 75 hard, right? One of the requirements for this is drink a gallon of water per day. I still find myself needing a little extra boost and a little bit more electrolytes to fuel all of these workouts I've been doing. And that's why I'm super excited to be partnered with Element right now on the One Step Deeper podcast, because I am needing all the electrolytes and they are providing life for me right now. They sent me this amazing package, guys. Look. What? We got watermelon, we got orange, we got raspberry, and my personal favorite is citrus because, listen, it reminds me of margarita, and during 75 hard, you can't have those, so I'm telling you, this stuff is giving me life. So if you're interested in trying them for yourself and getting some great electrolytes, you can go to drinklmnt.com/Jimmy, and there you can get a free sample. All you have to do is pay the shipping. Hope you enjoy. Remember, just as Element says, stay salty.